Okay, let's start with first question here. Yes?
I have one. You mentioned
So the question was, you have family members that have been told that they have a genetic case of depression. And you're wondering is if they can get rid of that depression, if they can get off their meds and all of that thing. First and foremost, when it comes to depression, I'd be hard-pressed to find a drug that entangles itself more in the human body than depression medication. When it comes to coming off of that, it has to be done with care. And it has to be done, I would very much recommend it be done under the care of a physician that wants this for you. Most physicians don't want people off of depression medication. They just want to numb them and just keep them that way. When it comes to depression, depression is absolutely not genetic. There is absolutely zero proof that depression is genetic. No part of depression, none of the physiology of depression, what actually happens within the brain to create it, can be called genetic. Okay? You heard about how the genes even in the baby were influenced by maybe a depressed mother. That, a baby coming out with physiology that was developed by a mother that had depression, very well, that baby could very well end up with depression later on in its life. But that's not genetic in nature, is it? That's preventable. Now that baby, even though its physiology has now been changed because the hormones and the chemicals in that mother were of a threatening environment, if you will, you will all learn more in lesson 10. The mind-body lesson we go through this in detail, okay? But what we've found in research specifically related to the symptoms of depression and what the brain looks like when someone experiences it is they've realized that the size of the hippocampus shrinks. And that is when people experience the inability to uptake certain neuropeptides and things that are necessary for you to feel well, okay? The interesting thing is in neuroscience, they always put the cart before the horse, saying that it was the physiology of the brain, it was the problem with the body that caused the depression, that there were wires mixed up or there was a chemical imbalance, right? You've all heard this? Actually, what happens is the thought process and the environment creates a chemical and hormonal imbalance because your body responds to stress and your thoughts. By the way, you will learn this in the future, but every thought that you have is heard by your cells. You cannot have a thought or feeling go through your mind without your body knowing it. And what happens is with a pattern of threatening chemicals in your body and hormones, your hippocampus shrinks and you experience depression. And we've always been looking at that small hippocampus and these problems with uptake of neuropeptides with being, this is why depression happens, it's just a chemical problem. It absolutely is not. And I know this is going to be hard for a lot of people to hear if they are diagnosed with depression and have fought it. And have people who have thought that their depression medication has helped them. But research has proven depression medication doesn't work. The only percentage of people that are getting help from depression medication are the exact same percentage that would get help from a sugar pill if they believed it was going to get them better. So depression is one that I'm very passionate about because it's something that we worked on in our practice. We had a wonderful psychotherapist working together with a pharmacist, a PharmD that we worked with, who was an herbalist as well, who co-cared with our PA. And what these practitioners could do together when they got together with the patient for the patient, watching people who had clinical depression that had been chronically managed for 20 years, watching them come up out of that was just incredible. So even if people get upset when they hear me talk about it, the reason I talk the way I do is because I've seen it happen in the clinic. I've seen it happen in patients' lives. I'm not just talking about some idea I've got because I read some books. Does that make sense? Okay. Next question. Yes? Okay, so the statement then question, sister diagnosed with breast cancer, just had the lump removed from the breast and is now, today was her first day of radiation. Okay. Remind me to talk to you because there's a whole lot that she can do to help herself through this process if she wants to. The question she believes it was genetic, and so the first part of the question is it genetic or not? And then the second part of the question was that I said something about being able to reverse preventable diseases. Would cancer be one of those? Is that correct? Okay. First and foremost, cancer is not genetic. Unless a baby comes out of the womb with cancer, cancer is not genetic. It's influenced, cancer is caused, it's a process of protection. A tumor is a protection. Do you know why? Think about it for just a second. You probably can answer. Why is the tumor protective to the body? It holds the cancer inside. Holds it inside. Does anyone think cancer is a fast-moving process? Most people have a perception that cancer is fast. Cancer develops over years and years and years and years and years, and then there's a lump because your body's trying to protect you from it so it doesn't go systemic. Does anyone know what happens when cancer gets into your bones and blood? It goes downhill quite quickly. So cancer or abnormal cells, and you can read books on this. There's a lot of oncology physicians who left being cancer doctors and wrote about their experiences and how cancer is actually trying to save your life, just like symptoms are trying to save your life. But if you let them go long enough, they'll take it. There is no part of cancer that is genetic. Now, they are telling us every day, I read more journals a day than you guys probably have in your entire life, but that's what I do. We get journals constantly that say they found a link to this cancer. They found a genetic link to this cancer. The problem is they are not talking about true mutation genes. These are genes that were damaged or susceptible by an environmental factor, either in that person's life or in the life that came before them. And due to that person, how they thought and how they lived, cancer began to express itself in their life. Their immunity was unable to fight off the growth of cancer because of how they were living. Not because there was a gene that was somehow mutated and it took over their body. Does that make sense? It may not make sense, but you can probably start to grasp it. Okay? So no, there is no genetic link to breast cancer. They continue to tell you there is, but if they had it, they'd have a cure. And the billions of dollars that's gone into cancer research, especially breast cancer research, the only thing that's increased is what? Breast cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, the scientific community is way smarter than that. If they wanted a cure, they'd have it now. And frankly, there's been plenty of cures that have come along that have been completely suppressed. Ever heard of someone going to Mexico for a cancer treatment? You're all told that those are quacks, that they fled the country because the medical establishment crushed them. No, these people are curing cancer. The reason my mom lived 3.5 years is because she got an itch after her first experience with chemotherapy and a bone transplant. She got an itch to find out if there was something different. She went down to Mexico, spent 2 weeks, and had her longest remission period of 9 months after that experience. And then her doctors told her when it came back that they caused it. Do you know why I'm passionate about this? So there's your answer. There's plenty of people who have stage 4 terminal cancer who are going and getting their cancer reversed. And they're doing it without anything that the conventional system has for them. It's happening every day. I'm just telling you. Next question. Yes? Very good question. first part of the question was, who am I, and why the heck are you listening to me? Second was, you're a type 1 diabetic, found out when you were 47? 42? I was going to say, I wouldn't put you a day over 35. And you were wondering why, what you did to cause that, and how can you reverse it? Okay. First of all, my history. You heard why I'm passionate about the subject, so you know my history as far as that goes. I started out in the world of physiology as a personal trainer, so I studied the systems of the body. I began then writing, using scientific methods of health improvement through the ACSM and National Sports and Conditioning Association in personal training to help people who actually were coming out of high-risk health situations. So as a trainer, I actually began to work with the medical community, and I would be working with patients who were coming out of heart attacks, strokes, hip replacements, major heart or major health problems. As I was in that world, I experienced an awful lot of issues working with the system, so I noticed that there was a huge gap between where I was trying to get people healthier and where all these professionals were working in this world. And I also saw a lot of limitations within the system. These limitations were due to insurance and what these people were depending on for their care. It led me to the wonderful opportunity of working with a small group of consultants on the West Coast. We worked with medical practices to design health education into their clinics. It was a time when pay-for-performance was starting to hit the West Coast, and if any of you know what pay-for-performance is when doctors began to be measured by their patients' health or their management of risk factors. It had a factor in how they were getting paid. Interestingly enough, these physicians had no more tools. They didn't have any different tools to get risk factors down, so they begrudgingly looked to people within the health community to help them. I then went from working on health education design in the clinical side of things to actually starting my own healthcare company, which I spent the past 5 years being the CEO of, and we employed physicians. We ran family medicine, chiropractic and physical medicine, rehabilitation, and psychotherapy. So my experience has primarily been as a health educator, a health education designer, a healthcare executive. So I signed the contracts with Wellmark and United and all of those things. Watched the business side of it, as well as obviously in the health education side, working with patients to reverse health problems in the clinic. So that's how I got here. And Healthy for Life University is really a collaboration of everything that I've learned over my 10 years of experience. So your type 1 diabetes, let's talk about that. Type 1 diabetes is a very interesting thing because what you have is you have a pancreas that is no longer doing its job, and you have cells that are not picking up the insulin signal. When it comes to reversing it, really what you need to do is you need to start living like any healthy person would. For them to, if they were to be living to prevent a disease, you would want to live like them. Okay? And this is what's interesting. A lot of people who have symptoms of sickness in their life, they say, hey, I have this symptom, what should I do? And they're like, no, I have this symptom, what should I do? Really? It's pretty much all the same. You talked about carbohydrates and things like that. When we get into lesson 2, you'll learn exactly why carbohydrates are something that your body doesn't respond all that well to, and why reducing and eliminating the majority of certain types of carbohydrates will allow you to live nearly insulin-free. Completely reversing it, I've seen it done in type 1. I've seen it done, I've seen clinical testimonies of it. I can't tell you that you can do it, but there's a pretty good chance you can. To tell you how it happened, absolutely no clue. I don't know how you did that. And it's okay and I actually appreciated how you asked it. How did I do that? It's very important to take responsibility for it, first and foremost. Even though we can't necessarily pinpoint where it came from or how it happened, you do have to know that it was, you did it in your lifestyle somehow, and your thought life and your environment, something like that. There's many factors, and you may never find out what you did, but you can reverse it very, very simply just by following the steps in the areas that you're going to learn in this course. That's very good follow-up question. The question was, isn't it just managing my symptoms if I don't eat pasta and don't eat bread and that type of thing? No, it's not. It's called not introducing the antagonist into the system, because that pasta and bread is not doing any benefit for you. It's not delivering any nutrients. Okay? So, and you'll learn this as we go along. Pasta and bread are not the pasta and bread we were consuming 100 years ago. The wheat that we have in our society right now is completely different. It's been hybrid, it has high proteins. Notice everyone's gluten intolerant now? This is poison from wheat. And this wheat is not the wheat we had 100 years ago. It is completely different. So no, you're actually you're eliminating the thing that probably caused or was a big cause of your problem. And when you eliminate something like that via lifestyle, you're giving your body support and allowing it to heal. Not the same wheat. Not the same wheat. Doesn't matter if it's organic, doesn't matter. Wheat is no longer delivering the type of nutrition it used to. And I don't know many people that can live on high levels of wheat and feel good. So that's just kind of a general acknowledgement that I've seen over the years. So we will stop Q&A here. You guys will have opportunity to talk in your discussion after this. So thank you guys very much. You were a great class. Thank you.